In 1972, one of the things that we got to see because of our position, because of my position, was a pamphlet sent out by the church called the Cloven Hoof 2. The Cloven Hoof 2 was a black pamphlet, and in that were instructions either for your group or plans that the church or what we refer to as the Illuminati were planning on doing. Now you need to understand that the Illuminati, to a Satanist, you're told that they are very powerful satanic spiritual beings, which is not altogether false, because the people who claim to be the Illuminati are possessed by those beings. Okay? And they said that they sent out this pamphlet, and I saw this in '72. I opened up this pamphlet, and there was a 12-step plan for United States takeover by the year 1984. They were trying to follow right along with George Orwell's book, 1984. One of the steps on that plan said this: we will infiltrate the education and media system. We will find a way to make evil look cute. We will seize and capture the minds of all youth. We will implant within them satanic and Luciferian doctrine, theology, and ideology. Then we will take that child and generate him up into adulthood. And as he reaches adulthood, he will pass those things down from generation to generation, from his childhood to the next childhood to the next childhood, until we have captured the minds of every individual. Tonight, what we're going to look at is we're going to look at the steps that they have taken to do just that. They have found a way to make evil look cute, and we're buying it by the drove. So what we're going to do is we're going to start out with symbols, and I'm going to share these with you. Here's the first one. This is the universal symbol of Satanist churches. It's called the symbol of Baphomet, also the goat of Mendes. And you notice now it's a 5-pointed star, inverted, 2 points up signifying the break with Christianity, this point down symbolizing that the center is hell or Satan, and it's a circle within a circle. You notice that there's a goat's head inside this star. Now, how many remember in the Old Testament the scapegoat, when the people of Israel were told to put the sins upon the scapegoat and send it out in the wilderness, and that's what atoned for their sins? Now, when you're inducted into Satanism, they tell you, poor old Lucifer, he was kicked out of heaven by God, and all he did was ask why God had the throne. And so now everything that you, and you do, we have to blame it on somebody, and we blame it on poor old Satan. So he's referred to as the scapegoat. And you notice that there are keys going around the outside of that circle. This is actually a writing, and it's called Enochian. Enochian keys. It's older than Sanskrit, and it actually spells out a word. And that word is Leviathan, which is the creature from the abyss, I believe in the book of Job. So this is the satanic pentagram. When you see that, you know exactly what that is, that's the symbol of United Satanist churches. Here's the next one. This is the universal symbol of witchcraft. It's called a pentagram. The reason it's called a pentagram is it's a 5-pointed star, and if you were to intersect those lines, in other words, if you were to draw those lines where they would intersect with each other, that would form the pentagram. I drew it like this so you could actually see the makeup of the star itself, which is wear these or draw these on the floor and then stand inside of them and summon up the spirits and charge the atmosphere on the outside. And they believe that by lighting candles on each point of that star, standing inside of this and charging the atmosphere, as long as they're inside that circle, they are protected. How many know that demons don't need you to draw something on the floor if they want to really get to you? Okay? This is another way that Satan keeps them in bondage, by making them think that they are the ones that are in control. Not the witches themselves, but that's what Satan wants them to make them think. That's how he keeps them going. Here's the next one. This is a hexagram. Exactly as it sounds. This symbol is used in black magic. It comes from the Jewish Kabbalah, Jewish magic. It is a symbol of dark summoning. What I mean by that is that if you want to put a hex on somebody, you want to cause a spirit to come forth, this is the symbol that's used. It's called a hexagram. Now, it is not, never has been, never will be the Star of David. Show me in Scripture anywhere where David was instructed to come up with a symbol of a star representing him or the city or the country of Israel. It's not there. The other thing is that Solomon was a wise king, but he was also a dabbler. Why do I say that? Because Solomon had many wives, and those wives came from different cultures, and those different cultures worshiped different gods. And guess what they brought to the marriage with them? Witchcraft. They brought those gods with them. Why do I say that? I don't. God does. Go to 1 Kings, chapter 11. Starting with verse 1. But when King Solomon loved many strange women. Why were they strange? Because they didn't worship the same God. They didn't worship the God of Israel. Together with the daughters of Pharaoh, women of the Moabites, Ammonites, Edomites, Sidonians, and Hittites, of the nations concerning which the Lord said unto the children of Israel, Ye shall not go into them, neither shall they come in unto you, for surely they will turn away your heart after their gods. Solomon clave unto these in love. And he had 700 wives, princesses, and 300 concubines, and his wives turned away his heart. For it came to pass when Solomon was old that his wives turned away his heart after other gods, and his heart was not perfect with the Lord his God, as was the heart of David his father. For Solomon went after Ashtoreth, which is also called Astaroth, the goddess of the Sidonians, and after Milcom, the abomination, there's that word, of the Ammonites. And Solomon did evil in the sight of the Lord, and went not fully after the Lord, as did David his father. Then did Solomon build a high place for Chemosh, the abomination of Moab, in the hill that is before Jerusalem, and for Molech, the abomination of the children of Ammon. And likewise did he for all his strange wives, which burnt incense and sacrificed unto their gods. And the Lord was angry with Solomon, because the heart was turned from the Lord God of Israel, which had appeared unto him twice. Now go to the book of Amos, chapter 5. God's getting ready to reveal something here. Chapter 5, and we're going to start with verse 25. God is not in a good mood here. The people of Israel, the children of Israel, have been very foolish, and he's correcting them, like a good daddy does. And he says, in verse 24, But let judgment run down as waters, and righteousness as a mighty stream. Have ye offered unto me sacrifices and offerings in the wilderness 40 years, O house of Israel? Verse 26, But ye have borne the tabernacle of your Molech, and Cheon, your images, the star of your God, which ye made to yourselves. When Solomon had the temple built, he used people from a land called Tyre. Tyre worshipped a god called Baal. This is the symbol of Baal, not the stars of David. This is the seal of Solomon. It comes from the Jewish Kabbalah. And in that time, that's Jewish magic. You see, not all Jews worship the same God. Does that mean that the people of Israel, because they've taken that symbol for the symbol of their country, does that mean that they're evil? No. They're deceived. It's very subtle. And Satan, we all know that Satan can deceive people very, very well. Here's the next one. Everybody recognizes the one at the top. All-seeing eye. One found on the back of the dollar bill, and also the seal of the Illuminati. But what you don't know, or may not know, is that the triangle has always been a very powerful occultic symbol. because it's a spell casting symbol, and it actually represents the three elements of all witchcraft: earth, wind, and fire. Hey, wasn't there a group called that? Huh. Down here is a symbol, it's an Egyptian symbol, and it's called the Ankh. It is the universal symbol of reincarnation. It's the worship of the sun god Ra and his son Horus. And you notice, now this was in existence before Jesus, but you notice it almost became a mockery, because as it comes up, it has a cross, and then it loops. And that means that life doesn't end, it just continues on and on and on and on. Universal symbol of reincarnation, the Ankh. And you know, it just really gets my heart, because I've been going through, on this last tour, I've been going through airport after airport, and I've seen these things being worn on young men with big gold chains, you know, hanging all around their neck. And I pray to God they don't know what that means. I really do. Here's the next one. Now, the one at the top you've already seen. That's a satanic pentagram. But this one down here is a very interesting symbol. This was actually introduced as a piece of jewelry in 1969, early 1970. Oh, by the way, how many have heard of Sarah Coventry jewelry? Anybody here sell it? Praise God, because Sarah Coventry jewelry is exactly as it sounds, Sarah's Coven. You see, witchcraft groups get their money to operate by two ways: the selling of themselves and drugs, or the making and selling of occult jewelry. And what they actually do is they ask this stuff to be blessed after they make it. Now, I mean, when I'm talking about blessed, I'm not talking about how God blesses us by giving us something. I'm talking about when they bless it, it means it's cursed. This is actually a Celtic symbol, and it's over 2,000 years old, referred to as the Italian horn, the horn of plenty, or the leprechaun's horn. And actually what it means is that the wearer of this trusts the devil for their finances. Here are two crosses. First cross is called the Tau cross, T-A-U, and it's actually a Babylonian symbol. But what happened was the Buddhists and the Hindus picked this up and said, we like that, we're going to use that as a symbol of good luck. Good luck if you wear it. Okay? And you notice, it probably doesn't even mean to be, but you notice it's kind of a mockery of our cross too, because as it comes up, it just stops. There's no ascension. This one down here is the inverted cross. Most of the time it's black. This is like what I saw on the wall of my mentor's house. And this is flown. This is actually one of the biggest blasphemies of Christianity, because it means that Christ did literally nothing on the cross. That's what it's supposed to represent. And these are flown at the time when black masses are taking place. And black masses are when you have your animal and human sacrifice. Here's a symbol for black mass at the top. And you notice that it looks like an ankh, but this is actually a high priestess. And the reason I say that is, there's her symbol, which is a crescent moon. You see, in witchcraft, they don't just worship one god, they worship many. Lucifer is only one of them, one of the lesser ones, in fact, because their highest god is actually a female god, a goddess, and her name is Diana, goddess of the moon. And this is her symbol, crescent moon and stars. Most of the time, if it's a symbol of the high priestess, she'll wear it around her neck as a pendant or a brooch, and it will have the crescent moon, and it'll have 1, 2, 3, or 4 stars hanging off of it, and that symbolizes her rank in that particular coven. So this is a symbol of the goddess Diana. This is the high priestess, and this over here actually is a symbol for the sacrifice getting ready to take place. A lot of law enforcement officials now are finding out that these symbols that they're finding on culverts and overpasses that they once thought were gang symbols are actually satanic cults. This symbol down here, I hope everybody can see that. This symbol right here is a really interesting symbol. Again, it's a Celtic or Druid symbol, and it was adopted in the 1970s by a rock and roll band called Blue Oyster Cult. And during all the interviews that Blue Oyster Cult did with their magazine people, they said all the interviews, they wanted to know why that symbol and what that symbol meant, because people couldn't figure it out. And Bloister cult members told him that, well, we can't tell you what it is, but it's a very mystical symbol, and one day it will reveal itself. Well, it has. This is called the cross of confusion. Now, I even talked to one gentleman who at one point said, well, that's a Christian symbol because there's the cross and then there's the fisherman's hook. No. You see the hole in the cross? That symbolizes the hole in Christianity. And this going down here means Jesus went into the grave and never came back up. In other words, it's a sign symbolizing that God is dead. One at the top is the new symbol for the Church of Satan. The reason I say new, Anton Szandor LaVey passed away in 1997 at the age of 67. He had heart problems all the way through his later life. And he passed away, and for a while it looked like the church was going to go under, and I was getting kind of excited about that. And they were even on their website, they were soliciting people for money to send it in to try to save the house, which was the church. And it didn't work. And the city of San Francisco wanted to tear it down and build a complex over it. And there was a lot of estate money owed on it. And he said, they said that it looked like it was going to go under. Sadly to say, October 31st, 1999, Carla LaVey, LaVey's oldest daughter, stepped forward and said, I'm going to follow where my father left off. I'm going to take over his estate. I'm going to take over his position. Deemed herself the high priestess of the Church of Satan, and now the Church of Satan is alive and well again. This down here at the bottom has never been, never will be a symbol for peace. It's a symbol of the broken cross. When you're initiated into Satanism, you're given a ceramic cross. You're told to turn that cross upside down, take the 2 points and break them down, symbolizing that there is no God. Also, in any occult book, you'll find that this is a very powerful symbol used because it's called the crow's foot when it's reversed. It's a spell casting symbol. But you see how subtle Satan got it into our... This came out about the time when the Vietnam War was going on and the Flower Children. And you notice at that time, basically what it was a rebellion against authority. But, you know, like tune in, tune out, turn on and tune out to get high. And so that's what that is. Actually, that symbol. I do not know what that particular symbol, what this new symbol stands for. I have not been able to find that out. A lot of the people that I was in touch with that I was able to ask have moved away, or I just can't get a hold of them anymore, so I have my resources are not around too much. I know that that looks like a symbol for infinity, but what that double cross here, unless that's exactly what it's supposed to mean, is double cross. But I'm not sure exactly what that is. Here's the next one. One at the top is a symbol for anarchy. It means you're against everything. Parental authority, government authority, no matter what it is, you're against it. One down here at the bottom is an interesting symbol. You've all seen the all-seeing eye, the pyramid. Well, this is another symbol for the seal of the Illuminati. It's a circle within a circle. This circle on the outside is supposed to represent the networks that go about making up the Illuminati, and this circle in the inside is supposed to represent all the men who make up the actual Illuminati itself. But what you may not realize is that the circle in paganism and other cultures has another meaning to it, and that is that it represents the female womb or female fertility. So when you see the circle in other things that have to do with paganism or have to do with witchcraft, you can associate that with feminine spirit power, having to do with fertility rites, having to do with the female womb. The circle has always been a very powerful symbol. Always has been, always will be until the time that witchcraft no longer exists. Witches use that to represent themselves to other witches. And a lot of times on a lot of their symbols, what they'll wear on their hats or they'll wear on a brooch will be nothing more than a metallic circle. And that represents them as being witchcraft and also of feminine spirit power. So when you see that, now you'll know what that means. Circle within a circle, or just a circle itself as being a very powerful symbol in witchcraft. And this is the next symbol, and this again is the symbol of the goddess Diana. You'll see there's the crescent moon and there's the star. Now, The stars doesn't have to be particular in that particular order. I've seen them where they're coming down a straight line here, where they're going into a curve. And again, like I told you, most of the time, if it's a high priestess, if it's a symbol of the high priestess, it'll be a crescent moon here, and then there would be 1, 2, 3, or 4 stars hanging off of there, depending on their rank in that particular witchcraft coven. This one down here at the bottom is a newer symbol, and it's actually used by what I call the dabblers. You see, there's two basic facets that I want to actually state here of witchcraft or Satanism. And that is that you have the ones that are the elite, and that means those are the planners. In other words, how are we going to get witchcraft into the school system? How are we going to get into the education system? How are we going to get it into the toys? How are we going to get it into the books? Those are the ones that do the planning. Those are the ones I refer to as being the elite. Then you have the dangerous ones, and the dangerous ones are considered to be the dabblers. The dabblers are the ones that are going to grab a cat and take it out on a tombstone somewhere and choke it to death or stab it with a knife, thinking that they're going to get favoritism from the devil. Okay? Those are the dabblers. Those are the ones who are dangerous, because those are the ones who are getting the stuff out of a book somewhere, reading it, and then going out and trying it. Okay? In this particular, this is actually a symbol of the dabblers. Now this is teenage Satanism. Right here is their symbol. And this means the left-hand path. And the reason for that is, you see that broken arrow there? That's a break with all parental authority, all any kind of authority whatsoever. And that circle means they're breaking out of that circle, and they're following this symbol here, the black path, which is referred to as Satan. So this means that you're breaking away from everything and you're following the left-hand path. And that's what that symbol is referred to, is the symbol of the left-hand path. Here's the next one. Now this is an important symbol for you to get into your mind. These are two mazes. The first one up here at the top is called the labyrinth. And if you notice, it comes around and then it has an opening here. That stands for feminine serpent power. And it's a powerful symbol for feminine fertility. And the reason for that is that symbolizes the womb. This down here symbolizes male fertility, or male serpentine spirit power. And if you see that, I don't know if you can see that. See that? It comes into a double-headed snake. See the head there? And then right here, those are supposed to be forming two snakes as it comes around. And that's called the spiral. And the spiral in paganism, both of these are pagan symbols. And one at the top, the labyrinth, actually represents feminine fertility. The one at the bottom represents the spiral, male fertility power. This is the next one. This is the satanic S, or satanic Z. This was adopted in the 1970s by a rock and roll band called Kiss. And they adopted that on the end of their name, thinking that people would think it looked cool. Actually, it stood for Kings in Satan's Service. And because they were serving Satan, in fact, Gene Simmons, the bass player, the leader of the group, even is a professed Satanist and says that he likes being demon-possessed. And Satan has always been referred to as a lightning bolt. Where do I get that? If you go to the book of Luke, chapter 10, verse 18, it says, and Jesus speaking, it says, "And I beheld Satan fall as lightning from heaven." Satanists grabbed onto that right quick and said, cool, we'll make Satan a lightning bolt, and that'll be his representation. And we can put that in things, and people won't know what that means. We can get our symbol on things, whether it's a toy, whether it's in a video game or whatever. We can get that in a book. People won't know what that means. Okay? They didn't count on discerning Christians. This was also adopted by the Nazi SS. How many know that Hitler was a very avid follower of the occult? Hitler believed in a spear of destiny. Occult theology, it said there was a spear of destiny. And he believed, because this occult theology said that the holder of this spear would become the ruler or the master of the world. And every time that Hitler and his army would invade a particular city, the first thing that he would do would be to send out his soldiers to gather up all the occult books in that particular area, because he was looking for that one book that told him where to find the spear of destiny. He never found it. But Satan is referred to as a lightning bolt. And so that double S up there is what that symbol is, the symbol of Satan. Here's the next one. Now this is very interesting. If you see here, there's the satanic pentagram, but this symbol down here actually started out as being a Buddhist symbol in Buddhism, and it meant good luck and prosperity. Now, remember that Hitler was a very avid follower of the occult. He was also a very avid follower of one of the most infamous Satanists of all time named Aleister Crowley. And Mr. Crowley wrote a book called Magic, M-A-J-I-C-K. And in that book he said, let all initiates of the satanic doctrine do all things backwards. Walk backwards, talk backwards, write backwards, and play backwards. And that way, people will look at you and think you're either eccentric or just simply insane, let you alone, and let you go ahead and do your activities without anybody persecuting you. So Satan have known this for many, many hundreds of years. And they've been doing things backwards, writing things backwards. You want to know if something is of God or not? Reverse it. Look here. What Hitler did was take that symbol, follow Aleister Crowley, and reverse it. And that's all he did. Simply reverse it and made it mean something else. Again, he was a follower of Aleister Crowley, and that's what Aleister Crowley said to do in his book, Magic. Symbol at the top again, hexagram. Once you see it again. This down here is a scarab. It's also an Egyptian symbol of reincarnation. And where they get this from is really, well, listen. When the Egyptians used to watch dung beetles, D-U-N-G, okay, dung beetles, push camel dung, little balls of camel dung across the ground, they looked at that and in their great wisdom said, that's the way the sun gods move the sun across the sky. And they saw these dung beetles actually bury the dung into the ground, and then days later, a beetle come out of it, and they assumed right away that this was that same beetle that went into the ground coming back up as a new beetle. In other words, reincarnated. Well, what actually happened was the beetle went in there and laid eggs, and one of the new beetles came out. But they looked at that. I mean, and that goes to show you what kind of wisdom actually goes in to build up a lot of this occult theology. But it's a symbol, again, of reincarnation. In some cultures, it's also referred to as a symbol for good luck and prosperity. Here's the next one. One at the top is symbol for sexual ritual. Again, these are the dabblers that are coming up with these particular symbols here. Like I said, they're starting to find these on culverts and overpasses and things and finding out that these are not actual gang symbols now, that they are actual occult satanic symbols. And this is a symbol for satanic sexual ritual. And down in here is the cross, the satanic cross of justice. That's why it has the pitchfork type appendages on the bottom of that. Again, this is put out by the dabblers. This is not the elite. These are the dabblers who are going out there and thinking that it's cool to worship Satan and that Satan rules, and you know, it's fun to go out and kill cats and whatever else you can find and sacrifice them to Satan. These are two symbols here. The first one at the top is for blood ritual. It means to sacrifice, blood sacrifice. And down here is satanic justice. Whenever a Satanist defects and they have a contract out on them, because I'm going to tell you something, when you defect from the satanic church, you're not playing around with a group of penny-ante people. They put a contract out. I had a contract out on my life. A gentleman asked me, said, weren't you ever afraid when you got out? I was scared to death. Until the Lord gave me a vision. And that was him walking into these gates, taking the parchment paper out of Satan's hand that I had actually signed my name in blood on, pulling it out of his hand, taking a key from him and saying, he's mine now. And I've never worried about it since. But this is the symbol for satanic justice. This top one is in cursive hexagram. And this was the symbol that Aleister Crowley came up for his infamous organization called the Golden Dawn. And this was their symbol. Down here is a New Age symbol. And how many know the New Age is not new at all? It's just a return to the old craft. It's actually witchcraft, paganism. It's going back to the old ways. There's nothing New Age about it. And this symbolizes Holy Earth. You know, the Mother Gaia, have you hugged your tree today type thing. This one up here at the top is bad company. Again, these are the dabblers. Up here means bad company. A lot of people looked at and thought that was a seal for a gang called the Folk. It's not. This is actually a satanic symbol. Those three up there, the three leaders of this particular group, and this shows that there are 1, 2, 3 other members in that group, and that the ladies are right here. 1, 2, 3. Bad company. And that's what it refers to. Again, the triangle, earth, wind, and fire, always been a very powerful spell-casting symbol. Earth, wind, and fire. Symbol at the top is called Vive, and it's a voodoo symbol. And I want to tell you that I thought that Las Vegas was going to be the sin capital of the world. How many have heard that? Okay? I mean, on tour, and I believe it was last month that I was there, yeah. Last month, I was fully expected to see Las Vegas be the sin capital of the world. I mean, I fully expected to walk in and see all kinds of things going on. But you know what? It has nothing over New Orleans. New Orleans is witchcraft central. I mean, you walk down there and every place you turn is voodoo. They even have a store in there that you can walk in, and for $19.95, you can buy a witchcraft doll and a voodoo doll, and you can make your own hexes and everything else. Isn't that great? So that's what this is a symbol of voodoo. Okay, right here. And down in here is called the wheel, or the wheel of life. Again, this is another symbol that life continues on and on and on, and it doesn't stop. Anytime that you see a wheel like this, it means that it continues. Here is a little bit of Celtic jewelry. I won't go through and tell you what all of it means. I think you can pretty much figure it out. There's your triangles intertwined with each other. There's your pentagram. This is actually a good luck charm right here. There's your pentagram again. This is a wolf's head and is actually supposed to give you animal spirit power. Okay? Down in here you see what looks like a horned beast. This is actually supposed to represent the god Pan. P-A-N. So that's a little bit of Celtic jewelry. Now, let's look at some of the jewelry that is out there today. Here's a good, nice piece. Look at this. Here you have a pendant that has your pentagram on it, and look, now you can get your crescent moon and stars around it. Lovely piece. I mean, that'd go with any dress, wouldn't it? Praise God. Look at this. Now you can get your pentagram and your horoscope with it. Because this is your pentagram, and all these symbols around there represent astrology symbols. So you can wear that thing 24 hours a day and attract all the good fortune you want. Along with other things. Amen. Look at this. This comes from Blue Moon Jewelry. Look here. Here's your pentagram. Here's your crescent moon, and now you've got your goddess hanging off of it. Wouldn't that be lovely? And guys, if you're really into eroticism, you can get one made of goddesses. Everybody see that? That's a pentagram made of goddesses, and the legs are forming actually the pentagram. Nude goddesses. Here's another one. Here's your pentagram. And now you have a crystal hanging off of it. Now in occultism, a crystal is a very powerful symbol because they believe that that stone actually can catch and harness the powers of the sun, the moon, the stars in that particular jewel. And when you wear that thing around your neck, you've got people wearing this thing thinking that it's attracting goodwill, good fortune, good charm, good luck, and prosperity. Well, it doesn't attract any of those things. It attracts demons. Okay? So that's the kind of thing that we've got out there today. And again, these are not things that you have to boggle your mind to find. These are things that are in your own backyard. You can go to your jewelry stores and find these things. Here's one. This is particularly for witches, because now you can get a pendant with your pentagram on it. There's your magic wand, your chalice, and your athame, which is your magical dagger. And you wear all those as a pendant around your neck. I'm going to show you one of my favorites. Look at this. And they're really bold now, because they say, "Behold the power of the crystal when it is endowed with the magic of Merlin, a remarkable pendant bearing the image of the master sorcerer, sculptured in sterling silver and coated in 24-karat gold, set with a stunning amethyst crystal and a genuine emerald, a rich reminder of the glories of Arthur's kingdom, and a good fortune amulet to wear proudly." This is my very favorite. My very favorite. Look at this. This is a good way to usher in the millennium. With an Egyptian millennium pendant. Mark the millennium by wearing the ancient Egyptian symbol of enduring life, the Ankh. Once prized by the pharaohs, now crafted for you in sterling silver, paired with a stunning falcon symbol of the sun god Horus, bathed in radiant 24-karat gold, the fitting way to celebrate the world's glorious history and the promise of the universe as it unfolds for the next 1,000 years. Both symbols together form a brooch, separate them for a dynamic pendant. So now you can wear it like this, or you can take this off and have this and have your two little ankhs on the side. So now, ladies, you know what you can get your husband for their anniversary. These are being found all over jewel stores, even stores where they sell the little pewter statues. And these are swords with your crystal in it. Depending on what your birthday is, it actually has your stone for that, so that it attracts goodwill and good fortune and good luck if you wear it. This is the fairy star. How many know that fairies are actually demons? It comes from Celtic folklore. So when you tell your child about the tooth fairy, you're actually talking about a demon. Okay? This is that particular star, the fairy star, and each one of those points stand for specific elements that make up the universe. The fairy star. Here is Sarah Coventry. And now they're not even afraid to come out and be bold and present it in a nice piece of jewelry. Look at this. There's your triple goddess, complete with a crystal-looking ball in the middle of that thing. And this is jewelry that you can go out and actually buy, purchase. Here's, again, the symbol, that particular same symbol. And now it's intertwined. And you know what those are? Those are serpents. See the head? Those are serpents. Isn't that lovely? This, again, is a symbol for the triple goddess. And the reason I say that is, you'll see that there are 3 crescent moons. Remember that their highest goddess is a goddess called Diana. There's her symbol. There's 1, 2, 3, and then there's the circle of life. Oh, wait a minute. Isn't that the same symbol that's used for hazardous waste material? Huh. You know, let's get something straight here. God doesn't need symbols. God does not need symbols to identify things of His realm. Who needs symbols? We do. Man has been a symbolic creature ever since history began. We've needed something to represent this and some other symbol to represent that. Because somehow or another we can't tell one thing from the other without a symbol. We call them now logos. Everywhere you look, every particular company's got a particular logo that identifies them and separates them from something else. We are very symbolic. Now, a lot of things come over from the Orient. A lot of things come over from the Orient. And some things have a big impact on us and some things don't. I can't think of anything that come over from the Orient that actually had a big impact or a phenomenon type craze other than Godzilla. But there is something new that's come over to the United States and has actually captured the minds and the imagination of every single child. And you know what? It's not new at all. Japanese kids have been watching this thing since 1995. It started out as a cartoon, went to a comic book, they made it into a video game, went to toys, collectible card game. Now, praise God, there's even a movie on it. And it was started in 1995. It's not new, but it's new to kids, and they're eating it up. And it's called Pokémon. And it stands for Pocket Monster. And it even made the cover of Time magazine. Now, the first thing I want you to notice is, do you notice any symbol up there that you've seen before? The spiral. And it stands for what? Male fertility. Okay? Now, this thing is actually called Polyworld, but they actually had another name for it before they renamed it. When this creature first came out, it was called Hypno. And they changed it to Polyworld to make it a little more innocent. But you see, what it actually does is it's supposed to be able to mesmerize and hypnotize its enemies. And you can see how that would happen. That starts spinning around, and it's just like one of those hypnotic wheels that they use to hypnotize. And you see up here in the top, here's a creature, an alligator-type creature over here, dragon, kind of a funny duck-billed thing down here. And this is an interesting character over here. This character over here is called Mewtwo. And Mewtwo looks like an alien. If you look at him real carefully, he looks like an alien. But you know, the first thing that I noticed about that thing is, when I looked at it, and I looked at those eyes, I said, you know what? That kind of looks like the things that we used to pray to inside that circle. Now you notice that he has a particular salute that he's given. And he's in this pose. Every time that you see Mewtwo, he's in this pose. Now he has 3 fingers. And those 3 fingers are always sticking out like that. Now, he doesn't have 5 fingers like we do. He has 3. But if they were the 3, on us, they'd be this. And that doesn't mean hook 'em horns, doesn't mean I love you, doesn't mean one more, it means hail Satan. It's the satanic salute that all Satanists identify themselves with. And it says here, you look here, it says for many kids it's now an addiction. Very much so. Cards, video games, toys, a new movie, is it bad for them? What we need to look at is whether or not that particular statement holds true. Is it bad for them? Here's one of the characters. Cute little one. Everybody, okay, everybody go, oh, come on. I know you wanted to do that, see, that's why I did that. He's cute. But the one thing I've noticed about him right off, this is Pikachu, one thing I noticed about him right off was his tail. It's a lightning bolt. And it's a satanic Z. It even comes down here to a point. Now, just by looking at him enough alone is not enough to really be able to say, okay, yeah, that's bad, or that's satanic. What we first need to do is we need to look at the actual production of these things. And the first thing we need to do is we need to look at who actually produced the trading card game that has captured the minds and the imaginations of our children. Now, it doesn't make any difference what I say, it's what their own material says, because their own material will give them away. Okay? So I'm going to read to you Here's a direct quote from the web pages of the producer of this game. Listen to this. The Pokémon trading card game is a new collectible card game that is made and distributed by Wizards of the Coast. What is a wizard? Male practitioner of black magic. Wizards of the Coast, the same company that made the best-selling game Magic the Gathering. Magic the Gathering is a heavily occult-laced trading card game which has been very popular in the 90s. And I should also tell you that Wizards of the Coast also owns a subsidiary company named TSR, and TSR is the company that puts out all Dungeons and Dragons material. So let's look at Magic the Gathering, because this is the same company that puts out Pokémon. So let's see where they're coming from. Now, from seeing the symbols, your actual discernment should now begin to be sharpened. How many see a circle? How many see a pentagram? Yeah. If you look, there it is. See that? Magic the Gathering. This is a role-playing game. Now, parents, in case you don't know what that is, that means that your child actually becomes a character in the game, actually becomes a part of the game. And that's what makes it exciting, is there's not many games out there that they can actually become a part of. They can play it, but they don't actually become a part of it. In this particular game, they actually do become a character in the game. And remember, it said that it's an occult game. One of the dangers of this thing is, being a role-playing game, is that it's played with the mind. How many know that the mind is a very fragile thing? And what happens is, in these role-playing games, I'm going to use the example of Dungeons and Dragons because TSR is the one that puts out all their material. The danger of Dungeons and Dragons, or any kind of role-playing game like this, is that it's played with the mind, and when played with the mind begins to lose that fine line with what's real and what's fantasy. And the more you get into the fantasy world, the more it seems real, and all of a sudden now you don't know what's real and what's not. In Dungeons and Dragons, this is a game played by 3 or 4 people. And what you do is you have one particular person that's the dungeon master, and he sets all the rules up for this thing. And then in your mind, you actually fight battles. You go through mazes, you go through dungeons, and you actually fight wars with evil wizards, dragons, demons, powerful satanic beings. It's all in the mind. And I mean, if you've got a vivid imagination, you can have one heck of a game. And what happens is that you can play this game for 10 to 12 years. Because the object is, as long as your character is alive, you're in the game. Once your character dies or gets killed in that particular game, you're out. So you can imagine that if a person loses touch with reality and now they've actually become that character, guess what? Anything that happens to that character now happens to them. And there's overwhelming evidence, psychiatrists and psychologists both tell us, there's overwhelming evidence showing that a lot of teenage suicides that are caused by Dungeons and Dragons are caused because the player has finally lost touch with reality. And what's happened to them now, they actually feel a psychic bond with that character. And so the character gets killed off and no longer in the game. You have no purpose, because all your purpose was for the last 10 to 12 years was playing Dungeons and Dragons. So your character gets knocked off, guess what? So do you. So let's go back to Magic the Gathering. Here's one of the cards. Yeah, isn't he cute? This is Cabal Ghoul. Now, you notice that there's counters up here. In other words, this stands for 2 points. And it says Cabal Ghoul. Now, in case you don't know what a ghoul is, it's a dead, rotting, decaying thing that's been in the ground and magically summoned back to life. So you have a walking dead thing, and that's what a ghoul is. And in this particular thing, it says, at the end of each turn, put a 1+1 counter on Cabal Ghoul for each other creature that died during the turn and was not regenerated. In other words, you have cards that'll actually keep your character alive for a certain amount of time. Here's another interesting card, because it's called the All Hallows Eve card. Again, this is all in Magic. Magic the Gathering. By the way, there was a news clip that I read about 2 weeks ago that spoke of a young boy in Maine. I don't remember what the town was, but it was in Maine. And he came home one day and asked his mother about Magic the Gathering, and said that the teacher had decided to use Magic the Gathering, this card game, as a new and exciting way to teach mathematics in school, in their class. And they even formed what was called a Magic Club, and that all the kids were part of this Magic Club. Well, the mother said, well, you're not going to become a part of that. You're not going to be in that. But one of the kids had given him one of the cards, and that card he showed to his mother, and that card was called Necromancer. And on that card, it showed spiritual beings actually being risen up out of the ground, out of their grave. And then he asked his mother, what does summon mean? And she said, why do you ask that? And she said, he told her, he said, because all the kids on recess go outside on the school grounds, pick up huge sticks, wave them in the air, and say, spirits, enter me. True. This is All Hallows Eve. Again, 2 points symbolized by 2 skulls. Here's your demonic black cat. I guess it's a black cat. I've never seen anything look like that. There's your demon in the middle. Jack-o'-lantern, full moon. And it says this card is called sorcery. Sorcery comes from the Greek word pharmakeia. It's where we get the word pharmaceutical. In occultism, it's witchcraft through drugs. Sorcery. And it says put 2 counters on this card. Remove a counter during your upkeep. And when you remove the last counter from All Hallows Eve, all players take all creatures from their graveyards and put them directly into play. Treat these creatures as though they were just summoned. You choose what order they come into play. Remember that, again, this is a role-playing game. This is called the Magician. I wonder why. Here you see the man kneeling, and look, he's forming with his hands the triangle. Right there. And he's kneeling in front of a flame. There are the crescent moons behind him. Over here can only be demons. Hellfire all around here. And it's called the Magician. And these are collectible cards. And these are cards that one day your child may come home with. Or may know of a student that has given him some of these cards. Now you will know what they are. So let's go back to Pokémon. Because now we've already established that the same company that puts out that game and puts out Dungeons and Dragons puts out cute little Pokémon. Isn't that interesting? Now, before we go any further, I want to see that if we as a group can agree on something. So I need little audience participation here to say yes or no. Okay? Are you into that? Yeah. Okay. Listen to me carefully. If we examine the characters of this particular program, and they are the kind of role models that we want our kids to be watching. In other words, if this whole game, the characters of this game, the monsters, this whole premise of this thing actually goes to establish the kind of values, the kind of standards, and the kind of morals that we want our kids to have when they reach adulthood, that it's okay. In other words, if they actually help to establish the kind of morals, values, and standards that we want our children or our grandchildren to have when they get to be an adult, that it must be all right. Can we agree on that? Yes. Okay. So what we need to do is we need to examine and see what kind of role models we have in this game. Now, what we need to do then, everybody go, oh, again. Oh, I know, he's cute, isn't he? Little satanic tail. Up here is the Pokemon ball. Okay, that's this thing here. Okay, and inside of that, you catch the Pokemon. Let the camera get a view of that. That's the Pokemon ball, and you actually catch the monster inside of that thing and harness the power in there. And then you can call on that power to regenerate itself outside of that ball. And praise God, it turns into a bigger and better monster. Now, we're told that there are 150 species of these particular creatures on the face of the earth. And we're also told in the material that these pocket monsters are creatures that inhabit the world with humans. And that they can evolve and grow in bigger and better creatures. Now, the object of this game is gotta catch 'em all. And they tell you that if you catch 'em all, you become a Pokemon master. Listen, parents, that word master will appeal to any child because they can become a somebody. They can become a master. And you know what? If you're the master of something, you don't need mom, you don't need dad, you don't need grandparents, you don't need aunts and uncles, you don't need school, and you probably don't even need a church because you're a master. You can become a god. That's the premise of what this has been teaching. You become the Pokemon master. That's the whole premise and the whole goal of this game. Now, this is the main character right here. He's called Ash Ketchum. Not Hal Ketchum, but Ash Ketchum. Okay? And again, it doesn't make any difference what I say, it's what their own material says. I'm going to tell you what they describe him as. Listen to this. An energetic and determined 10-year-old who's a little too competitive, and he's obsessed with catching all Pokemon and driven to become the world's foremost Pokemon master. And you know, every time that your children watch this program, whether it's a video, whether it's a cartoon, whether it's a comic book, no matter what it is, they hear this mantra, this rap song that's played over again. And it says, I will travel across the land searching far and wide, each Pokemon to understand the power that's inside. And then it's enchanted to them. Gotta catch them all. Over and over and over and over again. You know what it does? It fuels your child's craving for more cards, more books, more videos, more movies. It's designed to do that. That's what we call enchanting. Here's the next character. This is Misty. Look at this. Now this is off of a comic book. This is actually a page of a comic book. But if this was clear, if this was actually clear, you'd see that that's a halter top. It stops right there. And she's got short shorts on. And you know she's got to be about the same age as what Ash is. Okay? And she's described as Ash's companion. And listen what it says about her. She's headstrong and stubborn, constantly arguing with Ash. Typical woman. No, just kidding. God forgive me. All right. Frivolous spirit, that's what it was. And here's Brock over here in the corner. And Brock is by far the most hormonal because his fascination with the opposite sex many times gets him or the group in trouble. Well, then there's Pokemon trainer Gary. And Gary's not pictured in here, but Gary is a real self-centered jerk. He's vindictive and he's obnoxious. And then there are two characters, and one's called Jesse, and the other one's called James. And listen to what it says about them. It says, prepare for trouble, make it double. Jesse and James are an evil gang looking to steal rare Pokemon. Jesse and James are stuck up, fashion conscious, and you know what? In the program, they're also prone to cross-dressing. Now, if you don't know what that means that if you feel like you're a woman in a man's body, you wear women's clothing. You dress like one. If you're a woman who feels manly, you wear men's underclothing and dress like one. Cross-dressing. Oh, what kind of role model would that be? Okay, now remember at the first, I think that's enough right here, because I think we've got a pretty well good establishment on this thing. Remember that I said that if the characters were the kind of role models that established the kind of values, standards, and morals that we wanted our kids to have when they got to be an adult, that this game or this particular thing is okay. Remember we said that? Okay, so let's examine what we got. Let's see. Headstrong, stubborn, quibbling, self-centered, vindictive, obnoxious, hormonal, sexually preoccupied, evil, thieving, cross-dressing jerks. No. I don't know about you, but I mean, even if I wasn't a Christian parent, I wouldn't want my kids to grow up with those kind of traits. then we have to actually say that the characters of this game don't biblically stand up, do they? In other words, they don't represent the kind of values and standards we want our kids to have. And they're definitely not the role models we want our kids to be. But these are the characters that our children are identifying with day after day after day, playing this game, watching the cartoon, reading the books, looking at the videos. Now, we're also told that these actual beings have supernatural abilities. In other words, they can evolve and grow into bigger and better monsters. Now, this is a scene, actually this is a poster from the movie. And look here, this is Mew over here, M-E-U. He's kind of cute. And this is Mewtwo over here, complete with his satanic salute. And if you notice, that pose is always given with the left hand. That's significant. Remember the left-hand path? And we're told that they get bigger and better. Of course, that's what we always want. Bigger and better monsters. That's what the world needs. And we're told that they get bigger and better through the use of energy. Now, a funny thing happened. Well, actually it wasn't funny, but an interesting thing happened when this movie, Pokémon, was actually first released in Japan. I want you to see it. This is from CNN. Look at this. Because this is very highly unusual. Japanese cartoon triggers seizures in hundreds of children. And look at this. This is Tokyo, December 17th, 1997. This is when the movie was first actually released over in Japan. The bright flashing lights of a popular TV cartoon became a serious matter Tuesday evening when they triggered seizures in hundreds of Japanese children. In a national survey, the Tokyo Fire Department found that at least 618 children had suffered convulsions, vomiting, irritated eyes, and other symptoms after watching Pokémon. Japanese television network NHK reported that 111 people were still hospitalized Wednesday morning. And now spokesman Hiroshi Uramoto said that a later broadcast of the show scheduled for 30 other stations nationwide had been canceled and that an investigation was well underway. We are shocked to hear many children were taken to hospitals, Uramoto said. We will investigate thoroughly and consult with experts. And you know what they found? Not one of those children had a history of epilepsy. Now, you know, working in the mental health field for as long as I did, I can tell you that bright flashing lights will trigger off in occasion seizures and convulsions in kids or even adults that are prone to be epileptic. But not in 100 and so kids who have no seizure problem and no epileptic history. There's something unusual about that. And they went through, and it goes on further to say that they went through and even did CAT scans. And the whole premise was that at the end, they had to conclude that they don't know why it happened. Is that by coincidence? Or did something happen that they can't explain? Remember I said that they get their energy through energy balls. And here is a picture of cute little Pikachu, and he's being energized by an energy ball. And now you notice he's not quite so cute anymore, and his little satanic tail is really erect. And now parents, if you're not up on Pokemon, you need to be. And one of the things you can do is go out and buy the official Pokemon trading card game Player's Guide. And you can get this at any store that sells any of the Pokemon stuff. I mean anything. You can get it like at Toys R Us or any of those places that sell any of the Pokemon. And it says on the back of this, catch them all, then build an unbeatable tournament deck. And one of the things you can do is look through here because it shows every Pokemon in existence, and it tells you what their powers are, and it tells you how they get weak, and it tells you how they energize and what you need to energize them. But something very unusual is also in this book, and that is that they actually show the energy balls that is used to make these monsters bigger and better. I want you to see them. I hope you can see them from where I am. I'm going to hold it out here so hopefully you can see it. Look at the yellow. What do you see?
Lightning bolt.
Lightning bolt. Look here. All-seeing eye. Everybody see that? Up here is the clenched fist, symbol for rebellion, anarchy. Right down here is a powerful witchcraft symbol, where my finger is, powerful witchcraft symbol, and it's a symbol for fire. Down here is another powerful witchcraft symbol, actually a New Age symbol, they call a New Age symbol for earth. Okay, which is a green leaf. And down at the bottom here, this blue ball down in here is the symbol for energy of water. And water transforms into wind. Earth, wind, and fire, the three basic elements of all witchcraft. Parents. And I'm going to ask you, parents, grandparents, concerned aunt and uncles, friends, do you think they put that in there by coincidence? Do you think they just built this game, put these on there and said, hey, let's just put those symbols on there, they look cool. Kids won't know what they are, but they'll like them because they look cool. Or did they put them on there because they know what the meaning of each one of those symbols is? And they want to desensitize our children to seeing those symbols so much that when they see them in other things, hey, no big deal. There is a devised plan going on for the battle of our children's minds. There's a war going on right now for the children because Satan wants them really bad. Who better to serve the Antichrist than the youth? And the whole object is to catch them while they're young. Remember the Pokemon motto? Gotta catch them all? Who do you think feels that way? It's the enemy. Gotta catch them all. Gotta get them while they're young. Gotta induct satanic doctrine. Gotta put these symbols in their spirits. Gotta put these monsters in their heads. Gotta mess up their dreams. Gotta mess up their reality. Gotta break up the family. Have you ever tried to get talking to a child when he's into this game? It's impossible. They spend more time on this Pokemon. And you know what? It's amazing that your child can tell you every Pokemon in existence, even tell you where they get their power, what they do, and how they do it, but they can't tell you what you told them 5 minutes ago. They also can't tell you probably what they learned in school that day. And even worse than that, they can't quote you scripture. There's something wrong. And I'm talking to the men right now because, you know, men, we've been given an awesome task by God. We have nothing to say about it. You know why? God tells us that we're the priest of our homes. Yes. We are the ones who say, we are going to follow God. I don't care what anyone else does, but as for me and my family, we are going to serve the Lord. We are the ones who are supposed to say, this stuff is going to be allowed, and this stuff is out. And ladies, women of God, you've got an awesome task ahead too, because the Word of God says that you're to raise your children in the ways of the Lord. Not in the ways of these Pokemon, not in the ways of witchcraft or Satan worship, but in the ways of the Lord. Are we doing that? Or are we subtly giving in? This is a picture from one of the comic books. Look at this. Pokemon Psychic Surprise. Surprise, all right. Look at this. This creature right here is called Haunter. And I talked to 3 kids in 3 different cities who actually came up and told me that they were having bad dreams and that creature was in their dreams. Called Haunter. That makes sense. Haunt. Right up here is a creature that's not quite so cute now. This over here is not quite so cute. Little Pikachu down here, he's crying his eyes out. He's not cute, and even Ash doesn't look cute anymore. Psychic Surprise. And you know, going back to those energy balls, I believe that those energy balls represent that the Pokemon get their power by supernatural occult ability. You saw the symbols. Remember, the materials speak for itself. They give themselves away. And what made that even more evident was two cards. One was called Abra, and the other is called Cadabra. Abra, Cadabra. And that's an actual phrase, it's an actual name. Listen to this. Webster's dictionary defines it as a word supposed to have magic powers and hence used in incantations, on amulets, etc., a magic spell or formula. And on the Abra card, it says, using its ability to read minds, it will identify impending danger and teleport the user to safety. The Cadabra character has a pentagram on his forehead. And he has SSS across his chest. And it is the satanic SSS. And in my particular sect of Satanism, we didn't have it, but I ran into other groups that did. They had tattoos on the inside of their wrist, over their breasts, or on the inside of their thigh, and it was that same SSS. You know what it stands for? Satan's solemn servant. And also, the Cadabra character is always pictured on the card with his left hand giving the satanic salute. And again, I have to ask you, do you think that's on there by coincidence? Do you think they just made this game and said, hey, let's just throw that in there because it looks good? Let's just throw that in there because it makes it look a little more exciting. Or did they put that in there because they know exactly what it means and they want our children to get desensitized to it? They want our children to be able to look at that and actually at one day now, while they're identifying with their favorite Pokemon, reach up and go, hail Pokemon! And what are they actually hailing? Satan. Listen. Our kids are carrying around these cards like they're magic symbols. And they are taught to believe that they can call on the powers of these cards anytime they want to. And I ask you, do you believe that our kids believe they have power? Or do you think that this is just nothing but talk? Because if they don't believe that it has power, why are we seeing time after time after time news clips about our kids beating each other up on school grounds, even stabbing each other over Pokemon cards? Look at this. Quebec teen stabbed at school over Pokemon cards. This was in Montreal. And this was a 12-year-old student that tried to help his younger brother after his younger brother had his Pokemon card deck stolen from him. And he went over to these young men to get the cards back, and one of the boys pulled out a 4-inch knife and stabbed him with it. Look at this. Boy attacks teacher over Pokemon. Here in Lakeland, Florida, there was a young boy who had a deck of Pokemon cards, and he was passing them around the class, and the woman teacher noticed that they were paying more attention to Pokemon than they were her. So she waited for the deck to get back to this young man, and then she walked over and grabbed that deck out of his hand. He got up and struck her dead in the face with his fists. And of course, he got called in on the principal's carpet in the office, and they called for the parents. And the parents came to pick him up, and you know what he told his father? They were trying to steal my powers. Our kids are taught to believe that these things actually have supernatural ability and that they can call on them anytime they want to because their material states that. In this book, it tells your child, you have the power at your fingertips, so use it. And that's what they're doing. This game is a war designed to attack our children's minds, their very character. And if it gets into our homes, it will wreck family life in one way, shape, or form. This stuff is nothing more than unadulterated witchcraft, and it's put in a child's form, designed to attack the child and the parents and the entire family that this thing is associated with. That's exactly what it's designed to do, and that's what it does. Pokemon is a step to bigger and better things in the occult. And I have to wonder sometime when a grade school child is going to do what the Weeping Bell Razor Leaf Pokemon card says. It says this: it spits out poison powder to immobilize the enemy and then finishes the enemy with a spray of acid. And these cards cost anywhere from $7 to $9 per single pack. And there are report after report of children going into their parents' pocketbook and stealing money to go out and buy these cards. What is the purpose? What is the magic that's behind the whole game of Pokémon? I think by looking at it in that realm and looking at it the way that we've looked at it, I don't see it as being something that is beneficial to our children. I don't see it as being something that's going to help our family grow. And I sure don't see it as something that's going to help get the child established in the ways of the Lord. This is totally the opposite. Remember that the whole goal in all of these role-playing games, and especially in Pokémon, is to become the master.